what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm a comic artist and film enthusiast. I have not drawn any art. Certainly I haven't drawn any art for this. I would also not like to enthuse, but I would like to discuss the movie Emilia Pérez, which is nominated somehow for Best Picture. So I saw the Best Picture nominations for the Oscars this year, and I was really shocked because this is the first time in a really long time that I only knew about 3 of the movies. I literally only heard of 3 of the movies. The Substance, Wicked, and Dune Part 2. There are so many movies on this list that I had never heard about, didn't know anything about, and so I thought it might be an interesting series because I assume other people also feel this way. Maybe it's just because I was traveling, but I feel like I was still on social media. I feel like I should have heard of a lot of these movies. So I thought it'd be an interesting series to watch as many of them as I can and give some reviews leading up to the Oscars. So I started with Emilia Pérez because it's free. I have Netflix, so that works out pretty well for me. I was like, I don't know, that's the first one that I saw. That's the one I don't know. Let's give that one a shot. And I am flummoxed that this is a movie that is nominated for the best movie of the year in the 2025 Oscars. 2024? Okay, can I admit something to you guys? I feel like this is a safe place to say this. I don't actually know how the numbering works for the years of the Oscars because it's 2024 movies, but it's coming out in the year 2025. I genuinely don't know which one that is. I'm gonna keep calling them the 2025 Oscars. If that's wrong, please let me know because I truly don't know. I could probably Google it. It just now hit me that, yep, I could, but I probably won't. I'm gonna start this review off with something that I think is very important to say and just acknowledge. I am a straight white dude. I just am. Like I've never struggled or grappled or felt at all that I was trans or that I was intended to be anything other than a straight white dude. It's just not something that I've felt, which is not like a brag. I don't know if that came out that way, but my intention with saying that is to say, I really don't have a basis for understanding of whether or not this is an accurate portrayal of what it's like to be trans. I'm unable to assess the movie from the validity of the trans perspective because I am not coming from the trans perspective. Like, it just isn't a basis of understanding I had. I would argue that having looked into the director of this movie, maybe the logic there should have been applied as well. But you know, I'm a proponent of writing characters that you haven't personally experienced but can empathize with. I don't know that this is maybe the case to make that particular point, because I think if you're gonna make a movie that is so intrinsically about what it's like to be, the truth of what it's like to be in some sort of marginalized position, I don't know if that really qualifies as empathetic writing, and I certainly don't know if it's like the best plan to make something about such a hot button topic right now if you're not in the world. But I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge whether or not this is a fair, healthy, good perspective of trans people. I'm not here to judge whether or not this is a good political message to be sending vis-a-vis trans people, although I would venture to say probably not, since Emilia Pérez really is just the story of one selfish shithead ruining the lives of everyone around them. But that's not really what I'm here to do. I can't assess it from a real strong political perspective. But I sure have seen a lot of movies, and I sure can see a bad one when it rolls around. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because quite honestly, I find that more interesting than trying to guess at whether or not this is a good perspective. I have so many thoughts about this movie. This is the first time I've watched an Oscar-nominated film and had to pause it like 3 times just to get some of the negative energy out that I was feeling toward it, that the whole group we were watching it with was feeling toward it. It is such a tremendously misfire of a movie. I can't think of a worse movie for our current time, our current political, social, human climate. I can't think of a less fitting, less accepting movie than this one. But outside of that climate, the current film climate we're in also doesn't deserve this movie. We just got a beloved film musical in Wicked. Why are we doing the 2.5-hour version of Jess and Bear Claw's Gay Wolf musical? The musical elements of this movie are so comically poorly done. And I mean that in absolutely every sense. They're shot in this flashy nonsense way that doesn't mean anything, and also sometimes not. The music itself is written extremely poorly. The delivery of all of the songs, the singing itself is just not good. You have Selena Gomez in your movie, which, wonderful surprise, she really carried most of the film for me. You have Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana in this movie, two incredible actors, and they both have no songs to sing. Selena Gomez does one karaoke song and one very strange whisper scream song, both of which don't sound particularly good, and that's Selena Gomez. I am predisposed to not like musicals. I can accept that about myself. It's just not really my bag. But also, I feel like you have to make a point, make a case for why it's a musical. Like, there has to be a reason for it. La La Land has a reason to be a musical. It's a play on the classic film musicals. Cats has a reason to be a musical. It's this absurdist, heightened, crazy reality, so it makes sense to be a musical. Wicked also makes sense to be a musical. It's entrenched in stage play production. Emilia Pérez has no basis being a musical. It has no point to being a musical. It doesn't add anything to the movie. It commits what I consider to be the cardinal sin of musical movies, which is have the plot progress, hard stop, have somebody sing about how they're feeling, get that bitch on rolling again. It's a terrible way to do a musical. The musical elements in a musical movie should be to further the plot. They should be to add nuance, character depth, do something interesting, add to the movie, not just like have a scene where Zoe Saldana is sad and then have a scene where Zoe Saldana sings about how she's sad. If you cut the musical elements out of this movie, it would be significantly better. It wouldn't be good, but it would be better. Especially the most gonzo scene in the movie where Zoe Saldana's character, you know what? Okay, the movie is about, if you haven't seen it, and I honestly can't recommend not watching this enough. If you haven't seen it, Emilia Pérez follows Zoe Saldana's character, who is apparently a supporting actress. High disagree on that one, but Zoe Saldana's character is a lawyer in Mexico, and she is hired by this cartel leader to find a transition surgery doctor that will be affordable and solid and good and safe, that then this cartel leader can transition from male to female. That's the start of the movie. After that, it just kind of cuts 4 years later. Spoilers. You know what? Don't watch this movie. Don't see it. If you're super left-leaning, I think you're gonna hate this movie. If you're super right-leaning, I think you're gonna hate this movie. And if you're right in the middle, I think you're gonna hate this movie. So just don't watch it. Let me tell you the plot. It cuts 4 years after the transition surgery. Zoe Saldana's character is in London. She's super rich. And then the Emilia, the former cartel boss, finds her and sort of adopts her and gets her to get her Emilia's family back, who they just dumped in Switzerland for like 4 business years. So they get Emilia's family back. They're all together back in Mexico. Kids are sad that they aren't able to ski anymore. It's a whole thing. And then there's a weird scene where her kid says that Emilia smells like his dad, which I don't think is how that works. And also, it's probably the funniest scene in the movie because it's a song. It's a poem with music near it. It's essentially the LaCroix of music. It's the funniest scene in the movie because he gives the longest list of smells that his dad had, and it just, the longer it goes on, the funnier it gets, because it starts and it's like, you smell like my dad, you know, because he used to smell like cigarettes and whiskey and plants and Coca-Cola and lemons and remorse. Like, I want to go back and count it. I don't want to watch this movie again, but I want to go back and count how many smells are just listed in that song, because I kid you not, I think it's like 30 different smells, which is a lot of smells to remember from 4 years ago, and a lot of smells for one human to be like. Can you imagine the noxious gas of herbs and cheese and cigar that this guy must have smelled like at the time? Anyway, she gets her kids back, and Selena Gomez plays the cartel boss's wife, Emilia's former wife, I guess. And she's dating some other guy, and that makes Emilia mad for some reason. Emilia also decides that she's gonna right some of the wrongs and find the bodies that the cartel, not necessarily like the cartel she used to run, but just any cartels and gangs and stuff, like to find the bodies and bring peace to the victims. It's one of those things. It's the weirdest movie because it chooses constantly to just, in my friend Lincoln's words, just roll a d20 for the most chaotic decision, which is just that is the epitome of this movie. It doesn't ever make sense. Each scene seems to have a point, but most of those points tend to contradict former points made by the movie. It's so frustrating to watch. Also, the editing is truly horrendous. There are like so many examples of when you shouldn't cut within the same shot, and they just do. There's no cut reverse to anything else. It just like cuts to later in that shot. I don't know why. I don't know if that was stylistic. That's the other thing with this. I can't tell how much of this movie was intentional and how much of it is just somebody being shit at filmmaking. Is there some sort of thematic thing to missing frames of the movie? Is there a reason that sometimes the frame rate is just different and worse? Is there some added benefit to having a split screen with the worst background you've ever seen, making it look like a bad Zoom call? Is there a purpose to this movie? I don't know, because the point of this film, it all wraps up. There's the Selena Gomez's character is gonna get married to another guy and take the kids away from Emilia. Emilia gets mad about that, so she has the guy beat up, and then Selena Gomez and the guy capture Emilia for some reason to get money, I guess, and then it all goes to hell, and all three of them die in a car accident, and Zoe Saldana is left just standing there, which scene geography-wise makes absolutely no sense, because we see them driving for a long time, and presumably Saldana just walked or ran there, which just doesn't make a lick of sense, but that's so far from the point right now. The point is, if the movie had ended with the car accident, I wouldn't like it, but I would understand it. I would get that the point of the film was that Emilia Pérez is a bad person who has made bad decisions and was trying to do good, but just wasn't. I could understand that being the point of the movie. But then it goes on to have a whole song about how Emilia was a saint and how she was perfect and so great, and aren't we all so glad that we got a chance to live in the same world as her, which I can't tell if the movie knows is a psychotic way to end the movie. I don't know if the movie is trying to say that Emilia truly was a good person at her core, that she was important and powerful and really made a huge difference. Or is the movie trying to make a statement that society will glorify villains? I don't know what the point is, but either way, if it's the second one, it was poorly handled, so it wasn't clear, and if it's the first one, it's just factually not true. So those are my thoughts on Emilia Pérez. Well, those are some of my thoughts on Emilia Pérez. I truly cannot think of a worse movie for our current climate. I'm not sure I could picture a worse version of this particular movie, because if it was made even slightly worse, it would be funnier, and that would be better to me. But the fact that it is trying to be a high art, well-crafted film and just stumbling and failing at every possible turn, it is one of the most frustrating experiences to watch. It's a really long, just not boring. It's not boring, I'll give it that, but it is long. It doesn't have a point. There's not really a character arc for pretty much anybody. It's just such a frustrating experience. But from the perspective, and this is the most important thing to me, from the perspective of the Oscars, the idea that you would nominate this for anything is crazy. The idea that you would nominate, I could maybe give it to Saldana or I can't remember her name. I actually should know this. I feel like this is an important one. Hold on. I could maybe give it to Carla Sofia Gascon. I'm a straight white dude. I'm trying, okay? I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. But the point being, I could give it to her for Best Actress. She did a solid job with what she was given. I could give it to Saldana for Best Supporting, even though she really was basically the lead actress in this. I could even give it to Selena Gomez because she honestly crushed it. She did a great job. But anything outside of that, if you're gonna suggest that this is nominated for, you know what? I'm Googling it. I'm losing my mind. This is the worst. The point being, I legitimately can't find it, and I don't want to go through the whole thing. The point being, I could give it to Best Actress. I could give it to Best Supporting Actress. Sure, I will give you both of those. But the idea that this movie is nominated for Best Picture, the highest accolade, hypothetically, that we give to movies. You know what was a better picture than Emilia Pérez? Furiosa. Do you know what else was a better picture than Emilia Pérez? And also on Netflix, it's What's Inside. That was an incredible movie. The fact that that isn't nominated for jack shit and Emilia Pérez gets nominated for 13 Oscars is unhinged. I am not okay with this. There's nothing that is acceptable about that. And I know that people are already going to say, oh, the Oscars, whatever, they're rigged, they're stupid, they don't mean anything. I agree. They don't mean anything. They might be rigged. It wouldn't shock me to my core. But I agree, they don't really mean anything. But also they kind of do. Like, that list of movies should be, at least at bare minimum, I should watch them, and like Triangle of Sadness, I should watch it and go, I really hated it, but I see why it's good. That should be where I stand on. That should be the worst take that I have on a Best Picture nominated movie. This is so far from Best Picture, I don't think I would nominate this for Good Picture of 2024. I'm gonna watch the other nominated movies, as many of them as I can. But this was not the way to start. I highly, highly recommend not watching Emilia Pérez, and if it wins Best Picture, I might never watch the Oscars again. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on terrible, terrible movies, whether or not the Oscars are rigged, comic books, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to talk about next. Or do none of that because I am not your dad.